Good morning. I thought I'd do an update video. I haven't updated in a little bit there. I wanted to keep showing content, showing what I'm working on at the moment with the designs. So I pretty much have the Romulan warbird modeled. I still got to do some little detailing on it. I haven't got back to the Klingon ship, the Klingon D7. I'm going to get back on that real shortly. But for the time being, to test out some Blender concepts and stuff, I have started working on a Daedalus class ship. This is another interesting ship, as the there's probably quite a few. There's 5 major ones that I've ran into. This is another ship that, since it was took from a sketch, there's quite a few different concepts on what size this ship is. The most consistent one I ran into is that it is 140 meters. That seems to be pretty much the norm, and it seems to be the model that they built for Deep Space Nine, that they used in Deep Space Nine. From what I understand, they made 2 of them, and it's around the 140 meter range. But again, I've seen everything on this from 61 meters to 200 meters, and this particular one, I am using what I consider, basically there's 2 sets, and this is one of the more fairly accurate depictions. And I'm not sure exactly who made this, but I give them credit. They based this on 121 meters, which ends up being a fairly decent size. It's 19 meters shorter than the 140 meter design. And I scaled it alongside the Klingon dimensions here, and this is the Klingon D7, and this would be basically the Daedalus, or the Daedalus class. And it gives me room. I'm thinking that if I go ahead and model this into this scale with the 121 meters, that I could make this like the base model or the original, and I could scale it up 19 more meters into 140 as a second variant. So anyways, it's I could also do a top view so I can show you more of this poster detail, because I was pretty pleased with the detail on the poster that they made here. Like I said, I don't know who made this. They had it on DeviantArt, and but yeah, kudos to who came up with this. And for those of you who do not 3D model, this will probably be boring as hell, but any of you that are Blenderites, see I actually have quite a few. Most of the detail on this and the windowing and stuff is that's what's been taking quite a bit of my time. And then plus I'm designing this as a model to 3D print, so instead of just having a basic shape, I actually am going to have to shell this, and I have to build the housing around this so that it'll mold out and slice it in certain areas, so I can cut out the unnecessary materials. I'm designing this here so that you can put LED lights in here. You can LED these portals and so on. So I've been working on this for about 3 days now, and I'm using quite a bit of the Boolean and cutting techniques. So I'm happy with how it's coming out. Put that there. Let's go into my folders right quick. I don't want this to be too long. Whoopsie. Let's see if I can get my G drive back up. Okay, is that just the Here we go. This is what I was looking for. Right quick. So this is some of the research pictures. This is the one I'm using in Blender, and this was another variant that I was also looking at, which this is actually a sketch from Matt Jefferies. He took kind of the same basic idea, and he made some of these sketches, which I don't know for a fact, but I'm conjecturing that this is probably one of his last sketches. As you can see, he kind of put the tail of the Enterprise engines on there. He even though it's a sketch, he started kind of popping some more detail on this, and he has the engine pylons coming from the engineering hall and not from the boom neck. Okay, I've saved a few. So here's another one of the horizon. This is supposed to be the one. This is line drawings from the one that they actually modeled that they had in Deep Space Nine. The only thing I don't like about this line drawing is that they didn't put any scale. They didn't put any scale, but what they did do, if this was 140 meters here, you can tell the portals are smaller than on the San Paulo that I'm using as a model reference. They have quite a few more. Well, it looks maybe they don't. Yeah, it looks like in the center they got quite a few more portals in the center here. They got. So they're showing on the bottom like they got 4 here, and then they're showing in the middle they got like 6, and then they got 6 up above. They have quite a few more portals, and they also, you can tell that this boom, that there's obviously 2 decks in this boom area, where on the other one it's more like 1. So I think this would be more representative of the 140 meter version. And like I said, I don't know where this came from, but I'm being that it's saying it's the horizon, I think it's taken from the model that they modeled for Deep Space Nine that they have in Cisco's office. And then there's quite a few where people have modeled them, and they, like this looks like this could be a rebuild. There's quite a few, and then some of them are just, I don't know, they're a little overboard. they look okay, but they're, you know, this almost looks like the Picard Romulan bird of prey, like refit. Okay, this is another interesting one that I was looking at, because they again, this is another Matt Jefferies sketch. This is actually one of his first sketch. Most of his Enterprise, and actually it's funny, the name on it, you can't read the name on that, but the name is Independence. And most of his sketches, he had the engines down like this, and the secondary hull kind of like on top, and then he had, before he went to the saucer, he didn't want to use a saucer, because at the time in the 60s they had the flying saucer thing, the big flying saucer. You know, people were seeing UFOs, and almost all of them described them as flying saucers. He really didn't want to use the flying saucer, but it's kind of interesting that he ended up making the Enterprise with a saucer, because he said he flattened this down and it just ended up turning into a saucer. He thought that this shape would be the best shape he could have for pressure in space and so on. So this is actually one of his first sketches. So this is kind of interesting. Or I think it could be interesting that this could be used as almost like a pre-Daedalus class before they decided to flip it over. So it's kind of intriguing to me. Again, the Saladin, I got that. Okay, so here I went ahead and grabbed this. So one of the nice things on this one is they do have, it says human male, if you can see that little guy on there. And usually on a line drawing or a blueprint like this, the human male is considered 6 feet. They also have the meters, and they also tell you the dimensions. So this is 138.1, which is damn close to the 140, give or take again. And again, this looks more, this kind of looks more like the original series Star Trek per se, kind of. They got a little bit of elements in it from like Enterprise, where they got the set-in dish. It looks like they got phaser banks on it that are more like the motion picture, or like an earlier version of the motion picture. They got a decent scale on the windows, it looks like. And again, they have 2 decks and a boom, but they also raise the boom up and stuff like that. I kind of like that they forward swept your pylons just a little bit, but they didn't taper them. So this is well thought out. This is something I would model as a refit Daedalus class. So let's see. This is by Christopher Freeman. It says Ethereonaut. I can appreciate this design. This is really well thought of. Looks like he put a lot of time into it. And it's got the spikes. So I think I'd take the spikes off of this one. I think this fits more into kind of like the original series once they got rid of the spikes. But yeah, this is definitely, this is another one that I would consider 3D modeling. This has the flavor of the original series without screaming it too loud. And again, I guess I got 2 of those. And then here's some of the art that people kind of did. And that looks like the one I was just looking at, except for like I said, they got rid of the spikes. And this kind of looks like a little bit like an Enterprise, except for it looks like it's a refit from the Enterprise. So I can appreciate some of the art. This is some of the other stuff that Matt Jefferies did. He had the saucer, but he was kind of still trying to make the end, which is interesting because they kind of use this concept on the Vulcan ships later. And this is actually, I think this is an Eagle Moss model that I got pictures of. Again, that kind of has the flavor of the one we were just looking at a little bit, except for they got that hump on there. And you can see the Romulans from Enterprise. Here's another one from the art we just seen. This is art that's derived from that refit that we were looking at. And this, I'm not sure, but again, okay, kind of refit stuff. But this isn't the same one. This has got the deflector dish in the center, which is kind of an interesting way to put it. I kind of think it looks like a miniature Death Star. I think it's better. I've seen a version, I think I have a picture of it in here, where you have a little deflector dish like this, but they put an extra I don't know, circle mount down here, and they have the deflector dish here down here. And I've seen this. This is something where somebody was trying to basically take the Daedalus and disc it without being... It's like it's obvious, but yet they're trying not to be obvious, which it would be practical in the sense it would put more deck area in here, kind of, but it also takes away from the sphere. So I definitely... And here's one that kind of looks... I don't know if I'd describe it Borgish or Transformers, but... And actually, this is really small scale. If you can see the portals on this. This is not a very... This is like a littler version of the Daedalus. It's not real large. And just quickly, I don't know if you noticed some of the registration numbers, but that's also another thing on this, is that you have 150, 170, 129, 127. So I must have saved that picture twice. And this is, I think, this is from the game. It says Star Trek Online Agency yesterday. This could probably fairly easily be scaled to the 140. It's kind of interesting. They can see the back, kind of like the Enterprise above the shuttle bay. They have that bubble and stuff. And this is supposed to have like 4 little deflector dish things hooked up into a kind of a triangular shaped deflector, and this is more like a cover. Again, another kind of refit thingy. Okay, and here's another here. So see, here's Daedalus 176, which is funny because actually 176 is the Horizon's whole number in like Deep Space Nine, and this one doesn't have the transparent dome. But so this kind of is based on what I would say on the sketch. It doesn't have the inset detail and stuff too much that I was working with. Okay, this is a cool little shot of the bridge here, which is supposed to be the Daedalus bridge, which is interesting because they put a turbo lift on the side. I've seen a few different versions of this. They have one where the turbo lift's straight behind the captain's chair, and this one they have it on the side. This would be a good filming set probably because they have it where they can angle the camera like they did in the original series, where people can walk out of the elevator and you can see the commander in the chair and the people come in on the bridge. But it has less stations. It only has like 5 stations or 4 stations. Or this one might be 6 with the 2 in the back, but it's a smaller version of the Enterprise bridge, which is kind of cool. Okay, here's one. This is what I was talking about here, which is neat because they have their view screen, and they would have basically, because I think this is a cutaway, so they'd have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They have 5 stations here, and they still have the turbo lift offset, and then they have a little view screen. But you could tell that I said this is a smaller version of the bridge, and it's really cool because actually if you look close, they have like the Constitution class on the screen, but this is supposed to be a Daedalus class bridge. And here's a Lego. There's a Lego model. It's kind of cool. Okay, whoops, what did we do here? Okay, here's another one. So here's, it says Daedalus. This says 83 meters. The issue I have with this one, though, is if this is 83 meters, then them front portals are huge. They're like a whole person could stand in there. That would be like a gallery. That wouldn't be like a deck window. It'd be like a gallery. And then also, if we blow this up and we bring this over here, then you see the size of these portals. The same thing. They would be huge. You could literally stand in them. And then with the shuttle bay, which is ironic to me because it looks like somebody. I'm sure this is 3D graph, but it looks like a kit bash from an original kit. This is typically the hull of the Enterprise. And then they put in the shuttle bay doors, and they made it. It's like they're trying to make it look too much like the thing. And then they, so it looks like they took 2001: Space Odyssey. I can't remember the name of that ship. I think it was called Generation 1. It looks like they took the ball from 2001: Space Odyssey and kit bashed it in I think it was 157 scale Enterprise, and then somebody 3D modeled it. To me, it's interesting. It says 5 officers and 10 crew. I just don't think that you could get the 83 meters there. I think if you made this to fit 15 people, and it would be fine. You could put maybe 5 decks. I'm thinking more like 4.5, maybe 5 decks in this ball, little decks, and then you come back in here and drop down in here. You could have 4 in here, and you could have your shuttle bay, but the little door setup on the shuttle bay just, to me, looks goofy in that scale. And I don't know, I don't know what the 3 circles would be for, if you have doors to open up for cargo or whatnot, but it's not an uninteresting idea for a small scout ship or something that you could literally run around the solar system in, but you wouldn't want something this small to be running around deep space or anything like that, unless you're just literally traveling straight from Earth to Vulcan or something to that effect. Okay, here's again, and I know how big this ship is, so I could probably figure out the measurements on this. But the problem with this is that I don't know where they got their pixel art from, but the portals on this are way larger than the portals on that. And if this is 947 feet from there to there, which is, I forget the meters, I think it's 293 meters, and this is supposed to be 140 meters, then this should be just about as long, if not about as long as the engine. It should be bigger. It should be about up to here, give or take. It should be about half the length of the Enterprise, give or take. Again, another couple, like I said, some of these I have to give these people credit. I think this is the same people that have, or person that made the San Paulo illustration I'm using. Again, another horizon. Now this one's kind of cool that they kind of detail it up. I wouldn't call it Aztecing, but in a sense it's kind of like the Aztecing concept. They made it look like it's a really big ship, and it actually has panels. So that's kind of interesting. And this is actually a model of the studio set that they filmed Star Trek on from Desilu. And this looks like more like a, again, this is kind of, I'm sure this is a 3D model, but it looks like an actual physical model. They really did good, unless it is a physical model they took pictures of. I guess that's possible, but that's kind of based on the one I was showing you that I was talking about. It could be a really good retrofit. And here's a few of the one I'm modeling from the angles. Another one I was looking at that kind of comes off of his later drawing. And this one's saying 160 meters. I think that's one of the reasons I saved it, is because of the length. And actually the dome, the command dome on the front, is smaller in scale with the secondary hull. The engineering hull is larger. So, but from the side it looks pretty decent. Like I said, this is a heavy contender for the kind of like the refit, if I do one. And then this, I found this kind of interesting. This was kind of a nice cutout. This was also another sketch I think Matt Jefferies did as a concept for a ship, which is interesting because the whole ship looks like a big warp engine, and it has littler engines on it and stuff like that. But and this shows the tunnel walkway through it. This is more like the 121, maybe the 140 meter version. But it's a nice cutaway. And it says cutaway created by Matthew Cushman, and it says special thanks to Michael Okuda. So Michael Okuda and Doug Drexler actually had a lot of input on the model built for Deep Space Nine. So this is probably pretty accurate here, other than it doesn't, like I said again, it doesn't really show you measurements, but it gives you an idea like what the inside of the ship could look like. And this is another one somebody did. It's like it's okay, but this one wasn't too bad. This one I think definitely could you could scale this to the 140, and this should work out fairly decent. And it's got the name. It's the Adam Heinbuch, Heinbugorg.com, something like that. So, and this is interesting. This could be useful. This looks a lot like the it has the flavor of the actual sketches, Doug Drexler sketches. So here's like the actual kind of we've seen this picture earlier with the transformer dome, or I'm not sure what I'd call it. It's kind of neat. It kind of has a neat flavor, but he also puts a really big. Again, he's got the kind of like the TOS shuttle bay, which isn't too bad, but it doesn't look exactly like it, which is nice. And then he's got portals on it, and this is supposed to be 122.7, so give or take 123 meters, which might be logical. Like it looks like it's fairly well thought out, and then it looks like he has larger gallery windows and stuff. So this isn't bad. I don't think I'd want to model this. I might want to use it for reference. He's got his pylon straight out, which I'm not really a fan of that, but I'll give him kudos for the idealism, and even these support webs. I don't really like the way they look, but they are practical with the way they would reinforce that dome. Here's a back shot. We're almost at 30 minutes. I really didn't want to run this long. So let me get to the punch. Okay, here's one. This one's supposed to be 104 meters, which is smaller. And they also put the bridge. The bridge is not on the top. It's supposed to be a sensor dome. So they actually put the bridge lower into this dome, which is kind of an interesting idea because it would allow you to have a larger bridge. And you can count the decks in here, which is kind of cool. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 decks basically, with or you know, this could be a half deck, except for you'd be crawling in it to work on stuff. And then you have your passageway, which is a deck in your boom. And you got 3 decks with quarters, a 4th deck with the rec area and eating, and they got a botanical section and hangar deck. So I thought this was kind of interesting. Eric Christensen, and he's got dimensions and stuff. So this is another contender for modeling it, and this is in a size which, like I said, this could be to them. This is like could be like your first one, and then they can get bigger with the same basic design, but be enlarged if you wanted to have the story arc like that. And I was trying to find. They have some more. I have some more where they show internal views and so on. Here it is. So this is another one that I was looking at that I think, other than it's kind of grainy, but this is another one that kind of goes along with the black and white ones, I think, but somebody colored it in. So this is another one. I believe this to be to the 140 meter scale, and with as many sources there is, I think you could come up with pretty much a good representation of this ship, even based on the information that's out there. But you have to be careful with bumping into the just people's conjecture and ideas, you know. So I want this model to be. Or these models, if I model several different ones, I would like them to be as accurate as possible, and I would like them to be what I call as representative as possible to what would make sense. The Romulan ship, the Klingon ship, the hull registry numbers. Sometimes Star Trek is such a big pile of soup of just too many cooks in the kitchen stirring the recipe and throwing salt into it, and it just ends up being a big pile of salt after a while sometimes. So when I model these, I try to find as much possible what you would call canon source and beta canon source as possible, and then of course then maybe I might put a tad of my own twist on it, like this. I've seen quite a few of this where they got this rib basically like this, and then I actually put this more on where I made it, instead of having a rib that is external, I kind of made it to where it blends into the dome so that it would have more support. But you know, point is, it's something that I've basically put in there myself, but I don't think it disrupts the flavor of the design, and it's not altering it so much that it's like disruptive. I'm not bending this boom up at an angle, or you know, it's just something I like to play with. And once I get to 3D printing these puppies, we'll see what they look like, because sometimes things can look one way on an illustration, and they can look totally different when you put them on when you actually make them into a physical object. And I'm going to cut this off here now, because like I said, I was trying to make like a 10-minute video, and it's at 35 minutes. So we will see you on the next log.